How's it going, everybody? Thank you for joining us on this very special live video. We're really excited about. We're just getting a few things set up. So just bear with us here for a second. Okay. So hopefully everyone's doing good out there, and glad you were able to join us. Here we go. All right, so we're going to be going live with Nick Perdomo. I'm really excited about, and we are coming from Oakland, California, and we are Oakland Tobacconists, and I'm glad that you've hopped onto our channel to join the streaming and spend some time with Nick Perdomo and I. So with that said, you'll find in the description of this video, you can actually head over to our website. We have a link for our sampler pack. We have his entire 10th anniversary, the champagne, the sun-grown, and the Maduro, the sun-grown and Maduro being his newest releases. We have those available on our website. It's in a sampler pack, whether you want to pick it up in the Robusto size, the Epicure size, or the Super Toro / Churchill size. We have that available, so make certain that you click on the link, go to our website, pick up his cigars. They're phenomenal cigars. You're not going to want to miss them if you haven't had a chance yet. So before we go live with Nick, we have a few minutes here. Just go ahead and drop in the comments if you have any questions for Nick or myself. We'll try to go ahead and patch those questions through. Drop them down in the comments. Let us know what you're smoking tonight, what you're drinking. I'm going to be lighting up my cigar. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Curtis. How's it going? Glad you guys are watching. Hope you guys had a good week. And I'm going to be lighting up the Maduro. I can't actually, it seems like I can't get enough of this cigar. The Maduro 10-year. And beautiful band. As it's kind of funny because we did a live video with Dave Garofalo of Two Guys Cigar over in New Hampshire. He chose this to be his cigar number 1. And sorry, you could just hold on one second. I'll be right back. I get one technical difficulty filled out. Sorry about that. Just getting a few things settled down. Curtis still trying to find something to pick from his humidor. I recommend a Perdomo. So as I say, I can't get enough of this cigar. Dave Garofalo chose this to be his cigar number 1 over where he's at. Hey, Toby. Yeah, well, I'm glad you're still watching, though. I'm glad you're able to jump on. And I see why this was his number 1, because it's an excellent cigar. So we got Andrew smoking also a 10-year. Appropriate. Well done. So as I say, we're going to patch Nick in for any of those joining. We've been carrying Perdomo for a while, but we recently were able to open an account with Perdomo, bring them in, and very happy we have. In fact, Andrew, who's been watching, Perdomo diehard fan, is my younger brother, and convinced me to bring in the brand, and we haven't looked back since. So whether it is the bourbon barrel age, the 10th year anniversary, they're all phenomenal. All from Nicaragua, and you'll be hearing more from Nick. So without further ado, we're going to be bringing Nick on. I know we're a bit early, but that's okay. And we're going to have him join on. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Hey, Eric, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. How about me?
Yep, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Awesome.
Perfect.
So you're in Miami right now, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting in my apartment right on the beach, hearing the waves break. It's nice, a little cool here in Miami tonight. Probably not for you, but it's probably in the low 60s, which is cool for us.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oddly enough, we had a warmer day today. We're in the upper 70s, so it's been really nice.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here. That's good.
But I want to thank you so much for taking the time and joining us on our YouTube live. We've done most of our stuff like this on Instagram, so we've just kind of made that transition. And I know that Perdomo, it seems like you walk into any cigar shop, everyone knows the name Perdomo, and there's a reason for it, and the quality precedes it and comes with it. So thank you so much for joining and being our guest on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me tonight, Eric. It's nice seeing a West Coast retailer know good cigars. That's nice.
Awesome. So as you might have seen, I'm lighting up the 10-year Maduro. What are you smoking tonight?
I'm going to join you. I'm going to do the same exact thing. I got the
Okay.
Churchill.
Okay.
All right.
So I guess a question I've seen some interviews with you. I've seen also like the amazing documentary Hand Rolled. So I have a small idea, but if you don't mind, just kind of letting us know, how was it, your journey in the cigar world? Like what kind of where you started and how that transition looked.
Well, I started was really the typical American story. I started out of my garage in 1992, coming from a long lineage of cigar people. My family's from Cuba, of course, and my dad said, "You live in the greatest country in the world. If you work hard, you can attain anything you want." And he was right. From real meager starts, now we're one of the largest cigar companies in the world, and we got some really nice accolades this year. Cigar Aficionado does an independent study with some of the best retailers in the country, and we're the third best-selling brand in America. And Tobacco Business Daily just came out with their study and their survey, and we came out again as the third best-selling brand in America. So we're really proud of that.
Yeah.
Really proud that we're really proud we're in your store, and I got a tough act to follow, following David Garofalo from Two Guys Smoke Shop. Probably one of the best retailers in the world, and a dear friend of mine. So I got a tough act to follow, following Dave.
So when you when you say you had started out actually from your garage, what year was that?
That was in 1992.
Okay.
Just recently married, and when I got out of the Navy, I was an air traffic controller working here in Miami, and I always wanted to get in the cigar industry, and glad I did it. It was look, it was a heck of a ride, starting out like that. But you got to start somewhere, and had a lot of great retailers all around the country who supported us and still do to this day, including Dave. So I'm proud of what our team has done, and I'm very blessed. We have a phenomenal team, not only here in Miami, but our sales team is fantastic, and we sell cigars all over the world today. So my dad was right. Work hard, you can say anything you want.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, and I see a bunch of other people joining us. So thank you again for joining us on the show with Nick Perdomo. If you get a chance, if you'd like to check out tonight's sampler, it is the 10th anniversary sampler. 2 cigars of each, the Champagne, Sun-Grown, and Maduro. They're available on our website. You can go ahead and click on the order. It will direct you there, and you can try some of the phenomenal cigars if you haven't yet. And the cigar I'm smoking, as well as the Sun-Grown, these are your new releases. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, these are the 2 newest releases that we've had. We don't really come out with a lot of new brands. This was something special. This was something I've worked on for the last 2 years, to be quite honest with you. And we were actually going to release it in March, but then of course COVID hit, so that delayed us. And we released it toward the end of the summer. We've had a huge response. It's actually been our biggest launch since our Perdomo Reserve Champagne that just celebrated its 20th year in the industry, and we've been super happy with the response. Two Guys Smoke Shop, the Cigar Authority, it was the Cigar of the Year. We've been lucky, Perdomo State Selection Vintage was Cigar of the Year for Nicaragua, and Cigar Cult in the Cigar Journal, and we've been getting a lot of accolades, and we're very proud of that, and our team is also.
Awesome. So when you had launched in the beginning, did you launch with the champagne? Did they look similar to the blends you have now? Were they different?
No, they were totally different. Back when I first started, you couldn't get tobacco from Nicaragua. We moved into Nicaragua in 1995, and that's kind of how the evolution came with Perdomo in Nicaragua. When I first got to Nicaragua, there's only 2 functional cigar factories. Mexico, the Bahamas, and the Canary Islands were importing or exporting twice as many cigars as Nicaragua has, and I'm proud of what we've done in Nicaragua. I always said that Nicaragua would soon be the biggest importer of cigars in the United States. Everybody laughed at me, and today not only has Nicaragua bypassed Honduras and the Dominican Republic, it's bypassed them combined. So I think Americans and people all around the world are seeing how unique Nicaraguan tobacco is. We've been growing tobacco in Nicaragua for 22 years. We're one of the largest growers in all Central America, and there's just nothing like the tobacco from Nicaragua.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I think too, with the blends you have, it also seems kind of like when the name Perdomo is given, the name Champagne is not far behind. Um, and as I know, it kind of continues to be one of like the main staples. How did that blend kind of like take shape?
Well, it's an interesting question. We came out with that brand about 20 years ago. What happened was I wasn't a lover of Connecticut Shade wrapper, but I had a tremendous amount of it because back in those days, we had different types of viruses and molds, and Connecticut at the time was we would stockpile this Connecticut wrapper that we would buy up in Windsor or in Ecuador from the Perez family, who still grows tobacco for us even to this day. And I remember my dad said, "What are we going to do with all this Connecticut Shade wrapper?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, we have 238 boxes. You can imagine each bale does about 32,000 cigars. So I had a tremendous inventory of tobacco. It was very well aged. And I said, make some cigars with it. I really don't like it. I find it to be bitter." My dad came back and said the tobacco is creamy. It's got kind of a honey butterscotch color. It doesn't have that yellow yolk color. And I thought he was kidding. We had our tasting panel, which we have over 300 years of experience today, and we ended up smoking it and loving it. I came out with a blend, and I remember my dad said, "This is a champagne of wrappers," and hence how we came out with the name Perdomo Reserve Champagne.
Okay.
And then 10 years ago, when it hit its 10th year anniversary, we called it 10-year anniversary, and we just kept the name the same. We have, since we're vertically integrated, we actually grow the tobacco not only in different valleys, but in different lot numbers, so we can keep the consistency of the blend. It's a very unique cigar. It's Nicaraguan fillers and binders. A lot of people said it would never be able to be done because the wrapper would be overmasked, and I think our team did a great job in the dosage and the blending of it, and it's really a medium-bodied cigar. I can't make a very mild cigar because our ground's in Nicaragua, but it's very smooth. It's very well cured. It's very well fermented, very well aged, and because of that, it makes for a special cigar. And because we had such large inventories of Connecticut seed wrappers and grown in Ecuador, we just kept buying containers. And what we would do is we would mold them and continue fermenting them. And today, the wrappers that you smoke today on champagne are at least 65 to 70 months old, which is very unique. It certainly wasn't because of my infinite wisdom. It was just that I kept large stocks of this tobacco, and it's been a huge winner. It's one of the biggest selling brands in the world today, and we're very proud of it.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if it's the microphone. I'm having a little trouble hearing. So, I don't know.
I got my headsets on. Do you hear me at all or not?
That's better now. Yeah, that's better now.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just a huge brand for us. It's our number one selling brand. It's Old Faithful. It's our Coca-Cola, and we're really happy with it.
Awesome. So from the 10-year anniversary and doing the champagne, then you have a number of different cigar lines, and one of them being your bourbon barrel age. And as far as I know, you're one of the maybe the first to branch out and do that. And we do a lot of formal tastings here at our shop. We'll have a small group. We'll all cut the same cigar. We'll light the same cigar, pair it with something, and experience it together. We had done that with your bourbon barrel age. And the amount of reception on that sun-grown bourbon barrel age is phenomenal, and that cigar itself is just phenomenal. And how did that process look like from taking tobacco and aging it?
Well, the Perdomo Habana was a brand that we came out with almost 19 years ago, and what we did is, my father said we could add another fermentation period to the tobacco, and what we would do is we would use bourbon barrels. And the reason we use bourbon barrels are, one, they're not varnished, so they breathe. Two, they're charred on the inside, so they become a filtering agent because it's like charcoal. We're not trying to impregnate bourbon into it. It's the alcohol residue in the bourbon barrel. So when you case the fillers, binders, or wrappers, what it does is it gives it another fermentation period. The free radicals of the alcohol accelerate, and with pressure from the tobacco, give it another fermentation. And what it does three things. It caramelizes the tobaccoes, one. It brings the shades of the colors up because you're going to get another fermentation period, which is natural. And it really brings up the sugars and the actual really spot on flavor of the tobacco core that you want in the tobacco. And I think it really gives our cigars a different type of flavor characteristics because you're really tasting the tobacco the way it should be tasted. So you go through the aging, the curing process, and the fermentation. When you add these wrappers into the barrels, it really finishes off the tobacco, and you really get to taste the wonderful flavors of the way the tobacco should have been tasted. So we've been
Yeah.
doing this since 1999, and it's been big for us. And today, the company bourbon barrel ages every wrapper from every cigar from Perdomo Fresco all the way to our state selection vintage. We just think it's that important. We have 984 barrels at the factory, and it's important for us to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, being one of those companies that kind of like started to pioneer some of that, and started with the champagne, and that was for the most part during the cigar boom of the '90s, correct?
Yeah, it was. We started in '92. The boom started in '96 and '97, and you know we were in the good days and the bad days. The boom wasn't the greatest days for us because we were just starting our operation in Nicaragua, and it was a free for all, and our whole thing was quality. So quality always brings quantity. Even during the boom, everybody was crazy about cigars, but we distributed cigars as we could. And we couldn't get the cigars out as quick as a lot of people wanted to because people were just avoiding cigars. Nobody had cigars. We had this boom, and people were buying cigars quicker than most people can make them. I mean, people were making cigars in backyards back in those days. It was nuts, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that we just. I always follow the rule my parents taught me about doing things right or not doing them at all. So we had a lot of pressure, but we never succumbed to the pressure because we just wanted the products to be good because we knew that it was almost fake to us. It was just too crazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we did the right thing.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Um, so with the blends that you have, because I've noticed you have your Connecticut Sun Grown and Maduro. Um, that tobacco, for the most part, on like say the bourbon barrel age and such, are you using primarily Habano wrappers on that tobacco on the cigars?
On the sun growns and the Maduros, everything is Cuban seed tobacco that
Okay.
we have our own genetic department. We've actually developed four of our own seed varieties and strains. A lot of it's marketing. Nicaragua's been producing seeds since the early 60s. But it originally came from Cuba, where it originally came from Mexico in reality. And you use the terminology Cuban seed, but I'd venture to say that the best seed in the world comes from Nicaragua. And being from Cuban heritage,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still proud to say that. So yeah, the only thing that we use Connecticut seed is our Connecticut seed wrappers, and
Okay.
we use three wrappers on every single blend. And the reason is we think it's like the three best cuts of meat. Connecticut being a fillet, the sun grown being a bone-in ribeye, and then your porterhouse is your Maduro. So I think
Yeah.
it's important. And that way, when someone likes a particular cigar, he can ping pong back and forth into the umbrella of whatever blend he likes from Perdomo and enjoy it because the wrapper is going to impart upwards of 10% of the flavor, which is pretty substantial.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And I think it's easier, at least for like a consumer, to also wrap their head around, like at least for me, like to wrap your head around, okay, Connecticut and sun grown and Maduro. There's some companies where their portfolio is so vast in a way that it's almost confusing and it's almost not accessible or digestible. Um, and I think it's a clear layout.
Yeah, we want to make it easy for our consumers and our retailers. And when we have our block sets where people see our merchandising around the world, we want to make it we want to make it as easy as possible for them to shop when they go to any of the Perdomo sections, any of the retailers around the world. And it's worked really good for us. And basically, if somebody's looking for a creamy type cigar, he can go with a Connecticut seed wrapper. He's looking for a little more spice or earthiness, he can go to a sun grown. If he's looking for a little more sweetness, he can go to the Maduro wrapper. We don't paint our wrappers or steam them. They're just
Yeah,
naturally cured and fermented, and the sugar's beat up, and that's why they're dark. And it's not that they're stronger; they're actually have more of a sugar content, and they're sweeter.
yeah, okay. So with the challenges of this year and COVID and such, do you normally spend a good amount of your time on the road, or are you back and forth between Nicaragua?
I'm on the road consistently. I have millions of miles on American Airlines, and I'm consistently traveling. I have a home in Nicaragua, so um, I try to visit at least between 250 and 300 stores a year. It's very hard,
Wow.
including our vice president Arthur Kemper, my son Nicholas, who runs the sales department. Ralph Valdez is our sales manager, and 15 of the best sales reps you could ever have and been with the company a long time. So we do a lot of events. We probably do between 500 to 600 events a year around retail stores around the country. and we're very proactive with the retailer. My company's very unique in the sense that almost 8 out of every 10 cigars we sell are in brick and mortar stores. And the brick and mortar guys really took us to the dance. So we're very loyal to our brick and mortar stores. For most people, it's 50-50 or the catalogs are even higher. And we love the catalogs. They've been instrumental for us too, but it's not a big bulk of our business. It's cigar stores. And when I started out in my garage, the guys who owned the cigar stores were the guys who really took us to the dance. And we showed a lot of loyalty to the cigar retailers, and we like it that way.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So if any of you guys watching, if you have any questions for Nick or myself, go ahead and drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear your questions, also to answer some of those questions. The question I would have for you, Nick, is at what point did your son start to get involved as well? And what did that transition look like? I mean, he at this point, I'm assuming he's coming in when the company is substantial at this point.
My son studied under my father's tutelage in Nicaragua for 14 straight summers. He's always wanted to do it. I got pictures of him when he was a little kid in the tobacco fields and and everything else, because we're completely vertical. We do everything. And I wanted my son to blaze his own trail, but he always wanted to be in the cigar industry. And when he graduated from the University of Miami, we brought him on. And it's not easy being Nick Perdomo's son. I wanted him to walk the walk. I certainly want anybody to say he's Nick Perdomo's son, and that's why he got the job. But he really worked his ass off and did a phenomenal job. And today he runs our sales department, does a phenomenal job for us, and leads a group of 15 men and women who do an incredible job for us in the United States. I'm proud of Nick because he's done a really great job for the company.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, and it seems we got one question of being, what is your favorite stick? I know that's a question a lot of people hate. Do you have maybe like a handful of your favorites?
Sure. I mean, I like them all. I blend them all. I got to like them. But, I really like what we're smoking tonight, the new 10th anniversary Maduro. I'm a big lover of that. I've used a lot of tobaccos from a region about 2 hours north of us called the Jalapa Valley, which I really thought would accent the wrappers. I love Perdomo Reserve Champagne. It's put all my kids through college for sure. And but I think the stick that I smoke the most of right now is probably our 20th anniversary Sun Grown. It's won every accolade you could think of. It's a huge seller for us. I'm a big fan of it. But, I smoke everything. I love the Habano. I mean, we have a lot of core brands that are really doing well in the marketplace. Thankfully, a lot of people enjoy them. And I got to say that I got to enjoy them too. We're very stringent when we come out. We don't come out with a million brands. I don't know how people do this, but so for us to really release something, we have to have a consensus with our tasting panel and our sales team. And we really got to love the cigar. So it's really a hard question to answer. And I know it sounds like a canned answer. I like everything, but I really do.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that was what was very special to me and what caught my eye. Not only does the Maduro and the new sun-grown bands, I mean, the bands are beautiful. I mean, they're striking. The boxes are. But also, it's been a while since you have released like brand new actual blends, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I usually come up with something new between every 3 to 5 years because it takes me that long to come up with stuff. But listen, we're blessed between Perdomo Reserve Champagne, Habano, Lot 23, 20th anniversary, 12-year double age vintage. We have 8, and now the new 10s. We have 8 brands. We have 8 brands out there with 5 SKUs and 3 different wrappers that are jumping off our retailer shelves. So we have quite a bit of a big portfolio, and I think the retailers have a lot of cigars on their shelves. And I just think that when I come out with something, I want to make sure that it's something that sticks, that keeps turning on the retailer shelves. So it's just, I don't throw things against the wall and hope they stick. We really think about it, and we think about our retailers too and our consumers.
Yeah. Now, another question is, and I've heard this question before as well, is why do certain sizes make certain blends taste different? Before getting to that question, a question I would have is, do you have a blending size when you're coming up with blends? Do you have a particular size?
It depends on the type of flavor characteristics I want, but normally a cigar, we make them by hand with newspaper, believe it or not. We use it as a mold. And usually the ring gauge when we make the cigar is about 42 to 44. But some cigars, listen, I make more money making smaller cigars than bigger cigars. A Robusto at a 5x50 takes 33 pounds to make 1,000 cigars. a Gordo takes 70 pounds to make 1,000. I certainly can't charge you 100% more from a
Right.
550 to a 660. So everybody's always asking me, why do I make bigger cigars? It's because you, the consumer, asked for it. It was up to me. I'd make 38s, 40s, and 42s and be hanging out at the beach. You know, the thing that I want is I want to be able to satisfy our consumers and our retailers and make it easy for them to sell the products. So a lot of our stuff's in the 50, 52, 54, 56, and 60 realm because that's really the sweet spot of what the consumer wants right now.
Okay. Okay. And so, do you manipulate the blends depending on what size goes to?
It's
Like,
it's important for us, regardless of whatever cigar we make, that if it's a 54 line or a 56 line, that every cigar tastes identical. It's no different than your mother making a sauce. My mom could make a spaghetti sauce for 2 people or 200 people, and it would taste the same. She'd use more
yeah,
salt, more pepper, more garlic, more basil. It's the same thing with a good blender. A cigar should not change because of its ring gauge, contrary to whatever magazine tells you. This is what I do for a living. I've been doing it for 3 decades.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
had a lot of people, had a lot of great tutelage throughout my way. You add to the dosage of the cigar, and when you come up with a dosage or a blend, the important thing is when you come to different sizes, you keep the consistency. And of course, longer cigars and bigger cigars, or you're going to add more materials to make
yeah,
sure that it's consistent and blend. There's nothing more frustrating than smoking a cigar you like and change it to a different size and it tastes totally different. And I'll argue with anybody on that. The cigar
yeah.
should be consistent from start to finish, regardless of the size of the
Okay.
particular brand that you're making.
Okay. Now I've also heard it on like particularly your torpedo size. The Perdomo torpedo is very distinct, and it's got a beautiful like edge to it, and it honestly, I mean, if you were to unband it and lay it against another unbanded torpedo, you could still see it's a Perdomo torpedo. And is there a process in getting that?
Yeah, it is. It's basically the old Monte Cristo #2 head from Cuba. Sarah Gonzalez is our factory manager. Worked at the H. Upman factory, and that's what she made. And that head, we designed the mold to look like that. And they look like artillery shells, and that's the way a
Yeah.
proper torpedo should look like.
Okay.
There's a certain way to make it. I'm not going to tell my competitors my secret, but you can cut that cigar just to the tip, and it's always going to draw perfectly. And a torpedo, to me, is a beautiful shaped cigar. It was meant not only to be elegant, but it was meant to be where you put a 44 ring gauge in your mouth to expand to either a 52 or a 54 ring gauge, so you'd get a lot of cool smoke. And I'm a huge fan of the torpedo, that's for sure.
Okay. Okay. Um, Yeah, and we had a few questions on what you're smoking tonight, and some of them missed. We're both smoking the Maduro 10th year anniversary, which if you have not tried it, I highly recommend it. It is a beautiful cigar. And something I noticed about it too is I think that Americans consumer, myself, I'll maybe speak for myself, is that you think oftentimes Maduro means strength. It doesn't always. It always means people think it's full bodied, and this one is it's very approachable. I mean, would you put it in the medium plus?
Yeah, I would say it's more medium plus. I actually backed up the blend. And the reason I backed it off is I wanted to impart the flavor of the wrapper. I didn't want to overmask the flavor. So whether you smoke a mild medium or a full bodied cigar, I think you can get enjoyment of it because you really taste the essence of the wrapper, which is what I wanted. The reason people think that Maduro wrappers are stronger is one, because of its color, but two of them, they have a right because a lot of people steam them in hot water or they paint them, believe it or not, or rub all kinds of crap on it to make it dark, and they become brash. The reason we like tobacco has starches, carbohydrates, and sugars, and we love the taste of that. But if the tobacco is naturally cured and fermented correctly, a great Maduro wrapper will be sweet. And our Maduro wrappers are unique because we use Cuban seed, where most people use, either a Haltepec seed from Mexico, where they grow in San Andreas, or a Brazilian seed that they use in Brazil, or a Connecticut seed that they use up in Connecticut, which is broadleaf. And all three of the wrappers are great. I just think the seed variety we have has a lot more sweetness, and I just find the flavor characteristics to be a little more complex. But
Yeah,
smoking subjective, it's what I like. I'm one of the few guys that uses seed for its wrappers, but I think it's a beer to work with. It takes a longer time to ferment, but I think the flavors is well worth the effort.
right, right. And with most of your blends, and I'm not too certain, are primarily all your blends Nicaraguan puros?
Pretty much, yeah. But we're blessed because we grow in 3 different valleys. We have a tremendous amount of. We grow on over 1,700 acres of land. And Nicaragua is very unique because we have farms that are 120 miles away from each other in some instances. So the grounds are very unique. It's not just the pitch, but the altitude, cloud cover, and so on, and impart a lot of different flavors. We came out with a study several years ago. We thought we could come out with 39 different types of cigars if we wanted to in combination. So, we have a lot of way to a lot of fun playing and making dosages and blends and coming up with different things. Of course, we don't have 39 different blends, but we have various, and they're all unique to themselves, and that's what Nicaragua, really attributes and helps us doing that.
Right, right, okay. Yeah. And I mean, as you kind of was saying, when you had started out having Nicaragua being like at a smaller production rate of cigars and seeing the future on that fold, and it's definitely true. I mean, the amount of cigars. I mean, I've even heard the term being the new world of cigars, and the tobacco and the soil is so unique, but it's also very rich, where it makes your champagne cigar something that even for people like myself who prefer fuller body cigars, it's also a cigar you can go back to and enjoy and love. It's not boring in any means. It's very complex.
Yeah, I mean, it has tobacco from the Esteli Valley, which is the most richest grounds in the world, bar none. It's all volcanic, and we have tobaccos from Jalapa Valley that produce sweet and aromatic type flavors, and right smack in the middle you have Condega, which are more earthy type. But all these tobaccos, when you blend them, they produce a lot of combustibility, which is great for burning. But they also produce a lot of different types of flavors. So Nicaragua is unique in the sense that not only does the tobacco burn extremely well, but it's lively with flavors. You have a lot of power from Esteli. You have a lot of aromatic sweet qualities from the Jalapa Valley, and you have intermediary tobaccos from the Condega Valley, which is right smack in between the three of the areas. So you really get a lot of flavor from Nicaraguan tobaccos, and if you work them, because they're thick type tobaccos, and you age them well, they're just wonderful to smoke.
Okay, yeah. And we have a question from Tyler Scott. He's wondering from your portfolio, if you have a first time smoker, what cigar would you normally lead him towards?
I normally lead them towards champagne because of the light wrapper, but just because a girl's got a yellow dress doesn't mean she couldn't be crazy at night one time. You know what I mean? So what happens is, all I can tell you about that cigar, the tobaccos are very well cured. They're very well fermented. So the cigar is very smooth. So even though the cigar has a lot of flavor, I think it hits everybody's flavor characteristics. I think that's why so many people enjoy that cigar. You can imagine it's a brand, Eric, that we've had for over 20 years, and it keeps growing exponentially. And we're just flabbergasted at the amount of sales that the brand has. It's a must have in retailers all over the world, and all of them are doing extremely well with the brand because it really hits the flavor characteristics for everybody. Everybody can enjoy that cigar, and we're very proud of it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, and the common thing I've seen surrounding the new releases of the 10 year, and I know it's not true. People are like, well, it's the same noir cigars, just changed, or it just different wrapper, and so that's a completely different blend, correct?
It's absolutely different. The Noir was more of a really kind of a knockout punch type cigar, a lot of heavy tobaccos from Esteli. And what I did with this cigar, I completely changed the blend because these wrappers that we had were all 6 priming Coronas, and they had a lot of flavor on their own. So I actually tamed down the blend slightly and added more aromatic sweet tobaccos from the Jalapa Valley. The reason I did that was really, like I said earlier, was the accent, the wrapper, and I just fell in love with the blend. And it was the first time that our tasting panel actually had a consensus. We're always fighting with each other. I, there's 8 of us, and everybody, smoking subjective. Everybody's got something they like, but this was one of the first brands in 28 years where everybody said this is a freaking home run, and
Okay.
it has been a home run for us. People
Yeah.
really enjoy it, and our sun-grown sales are always higher than our Maduro sales. Today, the Maduro 10 is outselling the sun-grown by
Yeah.
for every 10 cigars, 6 out of every 10 is a Maduro. So we're really happy with that because we have a large stock of great wrappers, whether they be Maduro or sun-grown, and a lot of that. has to do with the sales of the Maduro. It's been fantastic. So no, it's
Yeah,
certainly not the new arts. Totally different. I'm not one to put different cigar bands on the same cigars. I've worked way too hard in too many years and have too much respect for my family to do anything like
right.
that. And I got to sleep at night. Totally different cigar.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I see what you mean as far as like the sun grown, and even I mean when I had first got years back when I started buying cigars, one of the first boxes, like box purchases, was that bourbon barrel aged sun grown, which I just absolutely loved. And so it's funny when the 10 year got released, I expected myself also to gravitate towards the sun grown, which I really loved as well. But just the Maduro was one of those cigars. It's like, yeah, but it's still in my mind. I still want to go back to it. I still want to enjoy it. Um, and speaking of the sun grown too, it seems it's correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems a bit sweet too. Like there's a sweetness on that sun grown wrapper.
It is because on the blend on the sun grown, we added another leaf of tobacco from a farm that I have called El Coyol in the Jalapa Valley, and it's a reddish loamy type ground. It's got a lot of minerals, and what it does is when you smell that tobacco, it almost smells like honey wheat bread, and it has a high sugar concentration. That's where you taste that sweetness on that particular cigar. And I think with the wrapper having that earthy, spicy flavor, it really works well. I'm really proud of both of these new cigars that we came out with, and the
Yeah,
sales, like I said earlier, they've been astronomical.
yeah, yeah. Well,
And do you
and
hear me? Do you hear me good still, or?
yeah. It's getting better. It seems like when you're closer, I can hear you even better.
Yeah,
Um,
what I think what happened was there's an arrival path over the top from Miami, and I think you're hearing airplanes. And what they do is they
okay,
blocked me out, and there was two idiots that were racing a motorcycle on Collins Avenue, and I think that's what part of it was too. So
okay.
okay,
Well, and I know you know Tim Swanson and Cigars Daily out in Arizona.
I sure
Um,
do.
he's kind of befriended me, and we've been talking back and forth, and we've had him on a few live shows, and I mean I had a understanding because he had launched his brand, and then also in the year 2020 we launched our shop summer of 2019, and so the struggles of something new during this crazy time and year. Um, was it a similar thing with you as launching new brands? I mean, with the press and the shows not being readily accessible as they normally are.
I'm sorry, you got cut out. What was the last thing? I couldn't hear it.
Oh, sorry. Like some of the challenges of trying to release new brands during 2020.
I know I almost feel bad saying this because I have a lot of friends of mine in the restaurant business. A lot of businesses had to suffer because of this stuff that's going on this year. The cigar business was phenomenal. We had a record year. We had the best year we've ever had in 29 years. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, we in 19, we had a record in 19 and 20. Our salesmen beat their record numbers in the first week of November. I've never seen sales like this in my life since the boom, to be quite honest with you, in 96 and 97. And I attribute that to a lot of guys staying home that started smoking more cigars. And everybody I talked to said, I used to smoke one, now I smoke two. I used to smoke two, I smoke three. Well, you advertise that by all the people in our country that smoke cigars. It's crazy, and I think it was great for the stress levels for people too. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
sitting home,
Yeah.
they're getting stir crazy, and we're lucky here. We have a great governor here in Florida. He let us go to work here fairly good, and our state is extremely healthy in business too. And just people all over the country are just smoking more and more cigars. I'm sure Tim can echo that, and I'm sure David Garofalo can echo that. Dave's a dear friend of mine. I know he had a record year. He always has record years. That guy he's a machine. But people are just smoking more and more cigars, and I think you got in the cigar business at the right time. And I see growth to continue outside of this new administration. It's going to tax and regulate everything to death. I think if people continue going and enjoying it, I think we're gonna have some bumper years in the cigar industry. That's what we're hoping.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is weird because there are certain struggles, and I think that there are different ways of kind of how you're saying. You visit all these shops throughout the year, and people finding different ways to adapt. I mean, like being guests on live videos and stuff. Just I'm a firm believer in education of the consumer to understand the blend better. I mean, I know that's what drew me in of learning the different blends and such, and doing things like this, even if certain things are done differently. there's ways to adapt. I mean, I think it was even Dave. I was listening to his podcast at one point, and he was like, it's really sad what's happening because there's going to be a lot of negativity, but also certain people will find certain new avenues to tread basically and go through. It's important.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I just know I get a lot of letters from people and saying, during these stressful times, man, your cigars got me through a lot of this stuff because, I couldn't go out, I couldn't do this, and nothing's more relaxing than smoking a great cigar. So I think it worked out well for a lot of people. And since a lot of people are continue working from home, they're sitting with their laptops enjoying their cigars while they're sitting outside and
Yeah.
enjoying, or whether they're sitting inside. So I mean, even January, we're having a pretty cold winter. We had a record January last year. We've already almost beat last January in 2020. So I just see everything, and our guys are doing a great job. We're shipping cigars. We ship 99.998% complete. I just don't believe in back orders, and I don't believe in nobody. I don't believe any retailer should wait in line to give me his money. I mean, the thing of it is, we want to make sure that we satisfy our retailers' needs, and I think they're happy with that. We're expanding shelf space all across the country because we're delivering on our orders, and I'm proud of that. And our guys in Nicaragua and here in Miami are doing a phenomenal job making sure that our retailers are getting our cigars. Our salesmen are doing a great job selling our cigars all across the country.
Yeah, well, and actually, I just heard you say it, and it's a saying that I heard on another podcast you had said, and it's something that really stuck with me. And the fact that no one should wait in line to basically to pay for your product, and it spoke a lot to me, and it's a practice I think unfortunately I don't see very common in this industry sometimes on certain places that I've been to and stuff like that, and it's definitely something to live by, and it definitely resonated with me when I heard that.
Eric, who did you hear that from? Do you remember?
It was actually from you.
Oh, okay, good. Because I was going to say, whoever said that, they copied me. That's my old saying.
I believe it was when you were on a guest on the Cigar Authority. Because I mean, I listen to that every Saturday.
Me too.
And I had turned to my wife and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And it's so simple, but I don't think everyone realizes it or understands it.
Yeah, consumers need their cigars, and when they go into your store and they want to buy a box of Perdomos, you got to have them. I mean, it's must be frustrating for people that have to wait, and it's got to be frustrating for retailers that are waiting and waiting to get product, and I just don't understand it. So, look, my accountants always say, Nick, you overgrow, you grow too much tobacco, you make too many cigars, and I think I've proven my point that it's very important to have a lot of well-stocked aged tobacco and a lot of cigars so you can fulfill your requirements for your retailers and your consumers. And I'm proud that we can do that.
Well, and during this year, along with the 10-year, you also did a project with Dave, right?
Yes, I did.
And I laughed at it because I had heard, and I thought it was rather comical in the fact that he's like, we're already out of this firecracker. We need a few more. And you said, oh, yeah, I already have some made for you.
I do, because I always make more, and Dave had been asking me to do this, and Dave is very stringent on all his brands, and we're proud that we make his Garofalo brand after his name. And Dave's been in the cigar industry for 35 years, and he really wants the best. And we were honored that he had asked our company to make the firecracker. It's been a brand that he's really kind of pioneered. And 500 boxes were sold, I think, in 47 minutes. It was astronomical, and we went through another 500 boxes. And Dave's one of the few guys that can do that. And I really enjoy his show, The Cigar Authority. Also, yeah. I listen to it on Saturdays myself.
Yeah, awesome. And so with that kind of friendship, was that something that you guys had met at like a trade show, or did he contact you, or what was the evolution?
Dave's been carrying my cigar since the early 90s. I still have triplicate form with Two Guys Smoke Shop from the time he was in East Boston all the way to the time he went out to New Hampshire. And he's one of the guys that's in my circle of trust in the industry. I like to pick at his brain a lot because I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, not only as a friend, but also as a businessman. And Dave's just a super smart guy. We have a lot in common. Neither one of us went to college, and we got good business acumen. So it's always nice to be able to coincide and talk ideas. And I just really enjoy talking to him. He's kind of one of my crutches in the cigar industry because of my respect for him, to be quite honest with
Gotcha.
you.
Cool. Now, with all the changes that have been implemented and just like I said, kind of adapting, do you think shows like the TPE and the PCA, as it were, do you think that is a reality this year, or do you think we're going to be seeing that on the back burner?
I surely hope so. I've been a PCA member for 26 years, and we were incredibly happy with the TPE show and the response that we got last year. Just having two shows back to back is going to be tough. Usually the first guy wins the battle, and I think it's going to be it's going to be tough. I hope so. I support both organizations wholeheartedly, and I love going to these shows. I get to see my customers, and we don't get to see them a lot. We have so many. We have thousands of stores in the United States that carry us, so it's nice when you get your retailers to come in and you get to see them. I mean, look, our retailers put food on our table, so I have a tremendous amount of respect for them, including you, Eric. I appreciate you're part of the family carrying our cigars too. And listen, I started something out of a garage, so to me, I have a deep amount of respect for not only the smokers out there and the Perdomo Army out there that's listening, but also to our retailers. So it's nice to be able to go to the show. I've never missed one, and I hope both shows are successful and both shows come out. But we'll be at
Yeah.
both of them. I know TPE is coming out first, and we plan on being there for sure.
Okay. Now, kind of to circle back, because I've asked a few different manufacturers this question. And did you grow up in the cigar industry? Was it something you had relatives in?
Yeah, I'm the fourth generation. All my family was in the cigar industry, but I actually got in the cigar industry because I wanted to. It wasn't that I was forced to. I remember when I first got in, my father said, "You're crazy. Bill Clinton's president. He's taxing and regulating everything to death, and you're going to have a tough time." But I said, "Dad, you said I live in the greatest country in the world. I can do anything I want." He said, "Well, yeah, I did tell you that." And latter part of 1994, my dad was retired. I called him up and I said, "Dad, I sold 1,000,000 cigars." And he said, "Well, maybe you're not so much of a moron." So he came on to work for us in the latter part of 94. And in August of 95, we moved to a small town called Esteli, Nicaragua. My dad was instrumental in that. And me and my dad worked together great. Not only was he a great tobacco man, he was just a great business guy in general. And like a great captain prior to his death, I mean, he led the ship in the right direction. And my dad was instrumental not only in my life, but in a lot of Nicaraguans' lives in the Esteli area. My dad was just one hell of a guy, not because he was my dad, but he was just great. I mean, half the baby carriages that mothers take were purchased by my father. When my father died, the whole town of Esteli came I mean, they still have, masses for him every year. He was just a phenomenal guy. And he's the one who founded Nicaragua when we first went. Everybody was going to the Dominican Republic and Honduras, and I'm glad we went to Nicaragua.
Yeah.
And that was because of the advice of my father.
Yeah. And was he a blender as well?
Yeah, my father worked at HM, and my grandfather worked at his rival Partagas, and my grandfather's brother was a minister of cigar tobacco in Cuba for 44 years. So, but that's really not the reason why I got in. Like I said earlier, I got in because of my love for cigars, and I saw it all my life, and listened to stories and hanging around the domino table. My grandfather, when you play dominoes, you play clockwise. So my grandfather would always have his cigar on the right-hand side. I was a little kid. The domino table would hit up to my eyes, and when he would turn to the left, I would grab a cigar and puff on it. And after the third puff, I'd go in the backyard and throw up, and I got always back on the horse. So, I've always loved cigars. And when I was in the military back in the days, I was in air traffic control. You could smoke cigars in the tower. And I always smoked, and I always had my line of, fellow sailors, and we'd always smoke cigars. And when I was a controller in Miami, we had a cigar club too. And I've always loved cigars. When my son went to college, he started a cigar club at Alabama, and with all his friends at the University of Miami also. So it's been something that's been in my blood my whole life. And listen, I was very blessed. I got to learn from my father and guys like Aristides Garcia, who has been in the cigar industry for 77 years. Sarah Gonzalez, who's our factory manager, who's been making cigars since 1963. And I've been blessed. I've learned a lot in the last 29 years, and I keep learning every day, even though, we have over 5,000 employees in Nicaragua. We have we have we do everything from making our own staples to making our own boxes, to developing our own seed, to having our own meteorological department. The company's completely vertical, and I was blessed because I always say it, but the greatest asset to Perdomo Cigars is certainly not Nick Perdomo. It's our workers. Our average worker's been with the company almost 20 years now on average.
Wow.
And we've had over 700 people retire from our company in Nicaragua. I've been blessed to be in almost every single retirement of every one of my employees. And our employees here in the United States have been with the company for well over a decade on average, too. Our Vice President, Arthur Kemper, just celebrated his 20th year with the company, and we're blessed to have such a great workforce.
Yeah, yeah. And with that, like starting out, did you always know that you wanted to try to do your own company, or did you ever have ideas of like, because you say your grandfather and your father had positions in other cigar factories as well. Was that ever a draw to you, or from the beginning was it something that you wanted to start from the ground up and do yourself?
It was something I wanted to start from the ground up and doing it myself, because you got to remember, living in America, being in a free country, you can really do it on your own, and it's what I want to do. I never thought that we'd build the type of business that we built today, quite frankly. I mean, I'm a kid. I was a 26-year-old kid making cigars with two guys in my garage in Miami Lakes, Florida, ripping the phone books and calling guys on their 800 numbers because I couldn't afford the long distance calls back in those days. And to be able to do what we've done today
Yeah, yeah,
is really a blessing from God, honestly.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, in a similar thing, when we had started our company, we were given the opportunity to by the landlord to be like, hey, they're like, we want to do a cigar shop, and in my mind, it was I'd be willing to do it. I want to do it if it was my shop, because just the research and the hobby, that growth and such is, I mean, it's not really something you can pay someone for. You can't really pay someone to be interested or passionate about tobacco or something like that. And with that, I'd known, like, I was like, it's something I want to do, but I don't know if my wife would be on board. And one day I'm sitting outside and having a drink or two, and I had mentioned it, and she's like, oh, you totally have to do it. You've got to do
That's
it.
great.
And having that kind of support system, I imagine, was also instrumental in your position as well.
Oh, without a doubt. I give most of the credit to my wife. I mean, listen, I worked 17 years without taking a day off. That's nothing special. Most people that build businesses have done the same exact thing. I'm certainly not special about it, but it was special to have a wife that supported you and helped me raise my children, and my children were extremely supportive of it. We have a very strong family, and people that know the Perdomos know that we're a very tight-knit family, and family means a lot to us. But, my wife could have complained and made my life miserable and said, why are you, away from home? My wife supported me from step one all the way to this day. And I give her a lot of the credit for that, because listen, the old saying, every good man always has a great woman behind her. That's really the truth. And, I have a lot of friends who've been in businesses who, maybe their wives have been a little adversarial to them. You know what I mean? But when you want to build something, it's special that we have wives that have supported us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, with the evolution, have you seen your labeling? Because I know when you see the Perdomo name, you see the Perdomo logo. It's very iconic. Has that changed much? Have you had to adapt at all with that, or have you kind of kept in the same labeling that you do? And is that something that you head up, or do you have your marketing team do?
No, we all do it as a team in-house in Miami. We believe that packaging is super important. Look, to me, a box of cigars is something very special. I remember when I bought my first box of cigars, I was staring at it. My wife asked me what the hell I was doing. And I said, it's my first box of cigars. So, you give these out for weddings and parties. I got one of the greatest compliments ever. I was doing an event just recently, and a guy said, Nick, I got to tell you, when my son was born, I bought a box of Perdomo champagnes. And today my son is getting married, and I'm buying him a box of Perdomo 10th anniversary champagnes
That's
for his
awesome.
wedding. And it was really awesome. I was touched by it, and it's so special, a box of cigars. We do these events, and you get a lighter and a cutter and some cigars, and everybody makes that to be the most important thing. To me, the cigars are so important. The passion, the pride that our workforce makes on those cigars. A lot of times, the guy will buy a box of cigars, and I'll go, by the way, here's your lighter, or here's your free cigars, because in reality, the cigars are the bone-in ribeye, and the lighter and the free cigars are empty salt and pepper shakers. It just takes so much work to make one of our cigars, and we're just so proud of what we do. And if you look at any of our boxes, you go below, I can tell you who rolled the cigar, who the sort team was. I mean, we have 18 different specials to check every cigar we make before it gets put in the box, and every single cigar is draw tested. We can draw test up to 19 cigars per second. And when people come on our factory tours, they're amazed at how important it is for us to, if a cigar doesn't draw, it shouldn't be put in a box of cigars. I mean, if you buy 25 cigars, you should enjoy all 25 of them. And I'm resolute on that. And I don't care if it's
Yeah.
a handmade product. With technology today, we can make almost perfection today, and we strive for that. I mean, excellence is merely tolerated. We're looking for perfection all the time because we believe our retailers and our consumers deserve it. The only thing I care about, and I told my son this, is like for you, Eric, the only thing I want you to do is you should be confident that when someone walks through your humidor, you can push them to a Perdomo cigar, and you can rest tonight knowing that they're going to perform. And the only thing
Yeah.
we care about our consumers is that they've never had a bad Perdomo. And to
Yeah.
me, in my age, that's what I work for more than anything. I mean, to me, that's the most important thing from the bottom of my heart.
Right. Right. Well, and my brother, who I had mentioned, who's very much a fan of Perdomo and kind of was also influential in bringing in the brand, because we had gone to Arizona and picked up a 5-pack of your Connecticut bourbon barrel age, and he bought these, and again, I'm not a Connecticut smoker, so he has 5 of them in his hand. He gives me one. He's like, "I'll make a deal with you. You try one of these cigars, and you promise to bring in a box." And I was like, "Well, it's Perdomo, so yeah, let's go ahead and do it." And I smoked it, and I was like, "Yeah, this isn't normal Connecticut." And we bring them in, and so recently I had brought the new 10-year Sun Grown Maduro to him. I was like, "Okay, here, try it," because I was very excited. And we're puffing away, and he turns to me and he's like, "I have not had one that doesn't draw correctly." And I mean, there are those moments. Unfortunately, there are some cigars that fall beneath the cracks for certain companies, that it's like, oh yeah, it's just not burning correctly and such. But I've never had to replace a Perdomo from our humidor that I've sold.
I hope you never do. What's your brother's name?
Andrew.
Give Andrew a big hug from me, would you?
Yeah. Yeah, and we've got a few guys come in too that's all they want to smoke, and it's not a situation of, we don't have a high volume of people like in our humidor of, okay, I am only a 1 cigar smoker. This is the only cigar I pick up, but there is definitely a following to that, and it's a testament to the brand, and the quality.
Yeah, we're blessed. We just have a great crew of guys that work for us in Nicaragua. And one of the things I like, and my father did a great job, was he taught them about our consumer base and how important everything was. And when we have a mistake and stuff, we normally have our workers actually smoke the cigars so they can see how frustrating something could be if someone has a bad experience. I think doing that for so many years, it not only brought a lot of pride to our workforce, but also a passion to really produce the best. We have a big mural, and we have these big 4 doors, and it says nothing gets beyond these 4 doors if it's not perfection, because that's the minimum our consumers deserve. And I think that our workers follow that mantra, and I'm very proud of them for that.
Yeah, yeah. Now, are you throughout the year, and when you're smoking, are you mostly smoking your own brand and quality testing and such like that, or do you find yourself ever venturing and kind of smoking what else is out there? Because I know there's certain manufacturers have either ways. Do you smoke primarily your own brand?
I do, because I like them the best, but I smoke everything. I think it's very important to smoke other people's cigars. Sometimes, look, it's like a cook. You want to see if you see something you really like. I got to be honest with you. My favorite cigar is Perdomo, but I do smoke other people's stuff. I know a lot of manufacturers say they only smoke their stuff. I
Yeah,
couldn't imagine doing that.
yeah,
And there are a lot of good cigars out there. There's just, look, when you smoked as long as I have, and you're in the industry, and that's what you do for a living, that's your profession, you see nuances of different types of cigars and stuff that you like and stuff that you don't like.
We just have curing practices and fermentation practices that we do that kind of, I think, separates us a little bit from
Yeah.
others. And we're a manufacturer. A lot of guys, don't make cigars, say they do, and have other people make them. And
Right. Right.
I'm blessed that we make our own cigars. Everything from developing our seed strain, from our genetic department to making our boxes. I mean, we even make our own emulsions, paint, silk screens, our cellophane tubes. We do everything, and the reason that we're vertically integrated is because of quality. It
Yeah.
doesn't. It's not cheaper like a lot of people do. Most people don't use bare fertilizer from Germany. It's expensive as hell, but I know that that's the best. But most people don't use a drip system. We have a system from Israel where we can trap water and we can actually dry fertilizer, algicide, and fungicide in a pellet of water. It drops directly into the root base. Not only do we save hundreds of thousands of gallons of water a year, but we actually give the plant exactly the amount of water it needs. Tobacco is
Wow.
no different than, for example, where you live in California with grapes. We want that tobacco plant to suffer because we want those roots to dig down. The more root base we get, the more flavor we're going to get, the more thicker the tobaccos are going to get. And our agronomy department does a phenomenal job doing that, and we know exactly what we need per field, per lot number, and so on. So it makes a big difference in the cigars when you're vertically integrated and doing it yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess another question I would have then is, do you have um, other inspirations that you've drawn from? Like you said that you smoke a bunch of different stuff. Are there certain cigars out there that you think that are like, hey, these are somewhat more special, or they they definitely rise above the others?
I mean, I like a lot of the cigar manufacturers from Nicaragua. Del Fernandez is a good friend of mine. Ernie Carrillo in the Dominican Republic's a friend of mine. Carlos Fuente, I have a lot of respect for those guys, and I think the respect is mutual. We've all been doing this for quite a few years, and I have a lot of respect for real cigar makers out
Yeah.
there that
Yeah.
do it and have to fight the fight. Look, this is a very tough business. This is not a business that you run with a calculator and a pencil and paper. That's what you do. You're not going to be successful. This is a business that you have to run with your heart a little bit. You have to love it, and you have to have a passion for it. And it's funny, at my age today, I love it more than I ever have. And people say, are you going to start slowing down? Are you going to get off the road a little bit? No, listen, nobody comes to me and says, I'm going to a funeral, I need a box of cigars, I'm going through a bad divorce, I'm going to get screwed, I need a box of cigars. People are
Right.
happy to see it. A lot of times I got to pinch myself. Look, I certainly didn't develop a cure for cancer. I make cigars, but I bring enjoyment to people and they tell me about it, and I'm just very humbled by it. And I really love what I do, and I have a lot of respect for our consumers around the world, and I have a lot of respect for our retailers who took a chance on a young kid starting out of a garage and they've still stayed with me to this day. So thank every one of you for all that.
Yeah. Well, and with kind of you staying active and busy the entire time, I mean, a lot of even my own customers come back and said, "Hey, have you checked out Nick Perdomo's YouTube channel?" And I know you've done a series of like education of lighting a cigar and smoking it properly. And one you had done about removing the label from the cigar, which I had just done. I have never removed a label from Perdomo, and it's taken the wrapper with it. Um, and it seems like the more you smoke it, you can just slip the wrapper off. The label you can directly off. And what is that exactly?
That's exactly what I want. We use a pectin. It's the same pectin we use to seal the cigar. And what happens is it's impossible that you couldn't get a smudge on it that could possibly touch the wrapper. So when you peel a band off when the cigar is cold, the minimum you're going to do is produce stress cracks along the wrapper. You got to remember when the roller stretches that wrapper, it's almost as thin as an onion skin. So it's best to let the wrapper warm up and the barrel warm up so the pectin melts, and then the band will peel off easily, or you can, like you said earlier, Eric, you can slide it off. What I wanted to do with that YouTube channel is I want to give people the best experience in smoking. I've seen people smoke cigars for 40 years that still can't light a cigar correctly or cut it. A lot of them haven't been taught. Look, I learn every day, everything. Someone asked me from 1 to 5, you must be a 10 because you do everything. And I said, no, I'm about a 3. I'm learning every day. You know what I mean? If you're not learning, why live, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
so in this YouTube channel, it's been great, and we've had a tremendous amount of people go to it, and it's really about the nuts and bolts. And we're going to get into more different stuff on our different blends and the different brands that we have that are coming up. everything from, what types of food, drink, and so on. And I think people are very interested in it. And they're interested from people that do this for a living. And I think it's extremely important, and I'm proud that we do it.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
been very well received.
Well, and I mean, really, what's fascinating to me are, I mean, you have your three wrappers, and how you're saying different blends and such. One I've got my eye on, which I'm hoping in the future we can bring into our own humidor, is the ESV. I mean, I know the ESV, it tends to be more of your kind of like higher end cigar. And what exactly is in that blend?
Well, that utilizes the top 3% of our crop from what we call our estate farms. We have three different valleys that we grow tobacco, but we have three different farms that were. It's really what we call our estate farms, and one of them is a farm named after my daughter Natalie. It was actually at one time a crater of a volcano, and these tobaccos are extremely powerful and rich. And the last evolution of the estate selection vintage has the first crops from the Natalie farm that we grew 7 years ago. So
Okay.
it's a very special cigar. There's only 135 stores that carry it, and we don't really pick necessarily the biggest or the busiest stores. We pick a store where the retailer is going to hand sell that cigar because it's extremely exclusive to them, because not everybody has it. I mean, in most states, there's only 2 to 3 retailers that carry it per state. So it's a very limited production. I don't like to limit anything, but it's a product. We do about 750,000 cigars a year in this brand. It's a very small production, and it really is our best. And the reason we call it a state selection vintage is because it really grows on the best plots of land that we have, and we even dilute it or make it minuscule in the portion where we're only picking the top 3%. So we can't make a ton of these cigars, and it's really a phenomenal cigar. But we're going to try to open up this year. Our goal is to open up 75 more stores and have 205 stores in America that carry it. So,
Wow.
but it's really for the retailer who's going to be patient and explain how special the cigar is and hand sell that cigar, not go in a humidor. If you need help, let me know. That's
Right,
not
right,
that's not what we want. That's a special cigar, and it
right.
only and look, it retails between $12 and $15. It's the difference between being a manufacturer and a middleman. I think our prices are very sharp. We absorbed the S chip tax. In 29 years, I've only had 11 price increases. Most people have been in business 29 years have had at least 29 price
Yeah,
increases
yeah,
in
yeah,
order.
yeah.
Boom, they had them every quarter. So I think we've really done the right thing for our consumers and our retailers, and they've rewarded with us with our consumers buying more of our cigars, being very loyal to our brands, and I could say the same thing for our retailers.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, well, I'd like to thank you for joining us on our show. For those watching, if you haven't gotten a chance, if you go to oaklandtobacconist.com, the link is in our description of this video. You can go ahead and order the champagne sampler. It's got it's the 10-year sampler, 2 champagne, 2 sun-grown, 2 Maduro, whether Robusto, Epicure, or also the Super Toro. We have them all available. I encourage you to try them. You will not be disappointed. The quality is just the proof is in the pudding, honestly. And try those Perdomo cigars, and I guarantee you're going to enjoy them. And so again, I got one of our regulars, Chip, begging me to carry the ESV. Hopefully it's in our future. What I would really like to do is for one of our formal tasting nights is bring in the Maduro or the sun grown or something, and really give it, like how you're saying, that time and lighting it up and all experiencing it together. It's phenomenal. Do you have a favorite size that you normally go to out of your lines?
I'm more of a Toro guy. I like torpedoes very much too. I'm more of a 6x54, 7x54 smoker. So I'm more of a Toro, Churchill, and a torpedo guy, to be quite honest with you. It gives me the right amount of time for me to really enjoy the cigar. A lot of times I'd sit out here with my son or my wife, and it gives me that hour and 15 minutes to really enjoy the cigar and really get the nuances with the ring gauge and really the way the cigar was meant to be smoked and the blend to be enjoyed. So I would say those are the sizes that I really enjoy, Eric.
Well, and I mean, I know for a lot of our consumers here, the Epicure seems to be the go-to. something that really stood out to me is the first size that I tried this Maduro blend in was actually the Churchill, the one you're smoking tonight. And for
Yeah, I
some,
love the Churchill.
yeah, and for some Churchills that I've tried on other brands, there's almost like, because of the length of the cigar, you're almost waiting for that flavor to hit you, and you kind of get into the second, third, and it's finally going there. Whereas immediately on light up, you're having that burst of flavor, and it's consistent all the way through.
A great cigar maker takes the tips of the tobacco where it has the most sun exposure and the flavor. And when we make the cigar, when we break the tips off, we line them in the front part of the cigar. So when you light it up, you're tasting the flavor characteristics from start to finish. The reason that it takes you sometimes an inch or two to get in is because the cigars were made backwards. When you break the leaf off, the tails, they
Okay.
put them in the front of the cigars. I was recently in the Dominican Republic last year, and I was watching this roller, and I told a friend of mine who owned the factory, I said, this guy's making the cigars backwards. He's putting the tails up in the front, and he went, oh my God, and that's part of quality control. And when you
Yeah,
light up a cigar, a good cigar should have flavor from the start to the finish. It shouldn't take
yeah,
an inch
yeah,
or two. You're being ripped off because you pay for a 7-inch cigar and you lose an inch of it. When you paid for a Robusto when you bought an Epicure, you paid more money for it. So we're really cognizant of making sure that the flavor characteristics of the cigar and the dosage of the blend start from the beginning all the way till you finish your cigar where you want to finish it at. That's part of quality control. It shouldn't
yeah.
happen.
Okay, gotcha. Well, and I mean, again, thank you for coming out with amazing blends, ones that we can all enjoy together, and we can have conversations over. And it was truly something special when I had heard of the new 10 years coming out, because as you had said, about 3 to 5 years when a new brand comes out. And when I had heard that, I was like, wait, Perdomo is coming out with something new, and it's just, you can see the time spent behind it, and I'm very, very happy with it, and I'm just, again, thanks for sharing it with everybody.
Well, we're actually coming out with a new brand in the summer also,
Really?
and this is a brand we had in the mid-90s. I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag, but some
Yeah,
people
yeah.
like bigger cigars, and we're gonna come out with something I think very special in a box of 18 that the
Okay.
retailers are gonna get for our friends who like bigger ring gauge cigars. And
Okay.
it's a brand that we had in the mid-90s, and we're gonna bring it out. We hope to have them out at the end of May. The cigars have been made from last year, but we're waiting for our friends at Brydag in Holland to finish up the packaging, and we want to release it for this summer. We like all our cigars after they're made to be put in our aging rooms a minimum about 7-8 months before we release them. The cigars are interlocked with their flavors, and it's the way a cigar should be made and should be
Yeah.
sold, where the flavors are right there where we designed them to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Nick, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Eric, thanks so much for having us. Thanks for being part of our family and carrying our cigars. I'd like to thank everybody out there who's listening, and I'd like to thank them for their business. I hope they have a healthy and prosperous 2021, and let's be Americans and enjoy life.
Yes, I heartily agree. So thank you again, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks again, Nick. And we'll be continuing to enjoy your cigars. So thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you.